Projekt Guru.
Всем привет! С вами Zak Novak на радиостанции Novorossia Rocks. Welcome to Novorossia Rocks Radio Station. This is Zak Novak, your American in downtown Donetsk. The program is called Projekt Guru, and Guru is in the house as always. Andre, my engineer, as well. Let's get right to it. Forget the ceasefire. We will destroy American-backed terrorists ISIS and al-Nusra as Syrian army is back on the offensive. In Hama, Syrian army units on Tuesday carried out a number of operations against the Takfiri terrorist organizations in Kafir, Labuda, in Atshan, also in Skeik, Mudek, the surroundings of Man, and in the northern countryside of Hamas Central Province, according to the military source. The source added that scores of Jaish al-Fatah terrorists were killed in the operations. Others were injured and a number of their positions and vehicles were destroyed. In Homs, a number of ISIS and Jafat al-Nusra terrorist positions and vehicles were destroyed as well, and many terrorists were killed in concentrated airstrikes in the eastern and northern countryside of Homs Province. In Deir Azor, the Army Air Force destroyed ISIS terrorist vehicles, some of which equipped with machine guns, and killed a number of terrorists at the surroundings of Al-Tahardar mountain in Deir Azor. Also in Darar, a military source said that an army and armed forces unit destroyed a command site for terrorist organizations and a vehicle equipped with a 23mm machine gun and killed a number of terrorists in Darar al-Balad in Darar province. Viva Assad, viva Syrian army. Not only is the Obama regime killing people all over the world, stealing and taking territories, putting puppets in place, but killing our own people, destroying our own people, criminal as U.S. Congress gets set to steal land from Native American Indians, first land grab in over 100 years. Guru, this is just shocking news. 2 U.S. Congresspeople will propose in the coming weeks a bill that would see thousands of acres of indigenous lands turned into oil drilling zones. 2 Republican Congresspeople are seeking to pass a controversial bill through the U.S. House of Representatives that would seek the first land grab of Native American lands in 100 years. Members of the Ute Nation have warned. The Utah Public Lands Initiative was proposed by Utah Congressperson Rob Bishop and Jason Shavitz, and seeks to roll back federal policy to the late 1800s when Indian lands and resources were taken from tribal nations for the benefit of others, the Utah Business Committee said in an article for the Salt Lake Tribune Saturday. Bishop and Shavitz will present the bill to the House in a few weeks, and if it passes, it would see 18 million acres of public lands in eastern Utah downgraded from protected lands and turned into oil and gas drilling zones that are exempted from the environmental protections. Think Progress reported earlier this year when the bill was unveiled. The actions of Bishop and Shavitz would seek to divest the Ute Indian tribe of their ancestral homelands, the committee added, while also bringing back failed policies of tribal land dispossession that have had devastating and lasting impact upon tribal nations for the past century. Turkey to support the Ukraine junta in its claims to Crimea, according to Turkish President Erdogan. Turkey will continue to support the Ukraine junta's claims to Crimea, Turkish President Erdogan said during his meeting with Ukraine's coup leader Poroshenko on the margins of the 71st session of the UN General Assembly in New York, the press service of the Ukrainian government reported. Erdogan said that Turkey will continue to support Ukraine in restoration of the sovereignty and territorial integrity of our state, both in bilateral and multilateral dimensions, according to the statement. The press service of Poroshenko stressed that the resumption of Turkey's dialogue with Russia will not affect the position of Turkey. The 2 leaders also discussed trade and investment issues. The Ukrainian coup leader invited Turkish companies to take part in privatization of Ukrainian enterprises. The 2 leaders also agreed to hold a meeting of the Ukrainian-Turkish Working Group on Energy Issues in the near future. On March 11, 2014, the Supreme Soviet of Crimea and Sevastopol City Hall issued a declaration of independence of the Autonomous Republic of Crimea and the city of Sevastopol from Ukraine in the wake of turbulent events in Kiev, where a coup d'etat had been committed and militant radical elements had seized control over the situation. On March 16th, 96%, that's 96% residents of the Republic of Crimea and 95% residents of Sevastopol voted for reuniting with Russia, from which they were torn away through Nikita Khrushchev's arbitrariness in '54. A treaty on accepting the new territories as administrative entities of the Russian Federation was signed in Moscow on March 18th. Crimea is Russia. No craters from airstrikes, but the fascist U.S. regime still blames Russia for the attack on a UN aid convoy. Yesterday's apparently airstrikes against a UN aid convoy, destroying between 18 to 20 trucks and killing some 14 Red Crescent volunteers, took multiple turns today, with the U.S. claiming they believe that a pair of Russian warplanes attacked the convoy, potentially as revenge for the American attack on a Syrian military base the day before, which killed 83 soldiers. The Russians are denying this, of course, but perhaps the even more unusual angle is that White House officials have subsequently come forward to insist that the U.S. holds Russia responsible for what happened to the convoy, even if they didn't actually do it. Obama aide Ben Rhodes argued that because Russia has made a commitment to the ceasefire and to getting aid flowing into northern Syria, it was obviously their fault that something happened to the convoy, no matter what that actually was. Of course, the U.S. had made the exact same commitments as Russia, and least near as anyone can tell, since the U.S. insisted on keeping the terms of the ceasefire secret, and the U.S. has directly violated the truce the day before when they directly attacked the Syrian army base in Deir az-Zor, allowing ISIS to overrun it. Either way, Russia is saying the evidence doesn't point to airstrikes to begin with, noting there were no craters from where the strikes hit, and the exterior of the vehicles was not damaged in a way consistent with exterior attack from bombs. Russian officials say the video footage of the incident showed the convoy catching fire, but did not show how that actually happened. Defense Ministry spokesman Igor Konashenkov suggested that the UN asked the White Helmets NGO, saying that as always found themselves at the right time by chance with their video cameras. Russians to blame for New York City bombing, connection with Kremlin puppet Donald Trump, this according to Hillary Clinton. Blaming Russia has been the go-to strategy for Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton since the convention, and that appears unchanged today, with reporters asking if Clinton was concerned that the weekend bombings in New York and New Jersey were a Russian plot to try to get Donald Trump elected. An absurd question, but Clinton was very specific in not saying no, instead insisting only that she didn't want to speculate, and then launching into a diatribe accusing Trump of boosting ISIS with his campaign rhetoric throughout the election cycle. Clinton cited former CIA Director Michael Hayden's claim that Trump is being used as a recruiting sergeant for the terrorists, and even accused Trump of giving aid and comfort to ISIS with his comments. She went on to insist she is the only candidate who knows how to fight terrorism. Over the past day, both Clinton and Trump also accused ISIS of rooting for the other side to win the election, with Clinton insisting her administration would be going after the bad guys and not the entire Muslim faith. Trump responded by claiming ISIS want her so badly to be our president. Clinton's campaign has explicitly blamed Russia for previous incidents harmful to her campaign, and have openly accused Trump of being a Kremlin puppet, insisting that the Russian government was making serious efforts to get Trump elected. This centered primarily on hacking incidents targeting the Democratic Party, which they have claimed were done by the Russian government, despite a paucity of evidence to that effect. While accusing them of bombing New York would be much more extreme, Clinton's refusal to dismiss the idea out of hand suggests the campaign wants to keep that speculation alive, at least for the time being. War crimes, genocide, as U.S. officials admit providing and the Saudis using white phosphorus in their war in Yemen. Admitting to new evidence that Saudi Arabia has begun to use white phosphorus munitions in their war in Yemen, U.S. officials have admitted that the weapons were provided by the United States in the past. They declined to say when or how many weapons were provided. White phosphorus munitions are heavily restricted in their usage under international law, allowed to be used only for smoke screens and signaling, but their incendiary properties and the risk of inhaling the smoke has made their use as an offensive weapon effectively a war crime. The State Department said any country given the munitions was accepted to use them only in accordance with international law, and promised to look into the reports of Saudis improperly using the munitions during the Yemen war, saying the U.S. would take appropriate corrective action if this is true. The U.S. has faced growing pressure in recent months over arms sales to Saudi Arabia, as their airstrikes in Yemen have caused massive numbers of civilian casualties. U.S. officials have tried to downplay the matter so far, but every new disastrous airstrike adds to the calls from international human rights groups for the U.S. to stop abetting the kingdom's war crimes. Hey everybody, that ends our program. As I stress always, be safe out there, stay on alert, and see you back on Friday. Bye-bye, folks.